gas stations. I know it's super cliche, but I'm not shooting it on Cine Still 800T, but rather Kodak Gold 200 at ISO 6400. One thing that I want to talk about in this video is negative space. When I refer to negative space, I'm talking about the areas of the image where there is no information, either too bright or too dark. Because we introduce so much contrast into these images, there is a tremendous amount of negative space in the shadows. But when you push your film to such an extreme like we did, you introduce grain into these images, and quite a decent amount of it. This is the area where negative space and grain come together to create texture. So in reality, though all those shadows are devoid of information, they in turn have this incredibly pleasing texture created by the film grain. As I move further along, one of my favorite locations is this parking garage behind Fenway Park. You get a great view of the famed Citgo sign, and if you time things just right, you can get lucky enough to capture the T passing through the frame. I may have missed this shot just by a little bit because the Citgo sign was just starting to fill out as the train was starting to end, and I knew I only had just a couple of seconds to capture the image of the train, so I had to take it. It was the last train of the night. It is what it is, but I will definitely go back and try to capture this image a little bit better. On the adverse behind me was this giant OLED display billboard. It created stunning reflections off the wet cement of the parking garage, and I waited and waited for the perfect display to pop up, and after 20 minutes of waiting, I finally got it. Congrats to Big Papi for making it into Cooperstown, but that isn't my favorite thing about the image, though I think that will be a nice little time capsule of when this image was taken. I really like the American flag hidden in the background and the Prudential Center building covered in a little bit of fog. And the reflections obviously on the ground just help to make this scene just a whole lot more interesting. All despite the fact that I blew out the billboard just a little bit. Now, pushing film is a highly versatile technique to use in many different scenarios, but pushing film 5 stops like this is a little bit unorthodox. All that happens when you push your film is that you begin to introduce more contrast, far more film grain, and in some scenarios, color shift and increase saturation. All the images you saw in this video are really great examples of that, and furthermore, are even better examples of why you should be experimenting with film and developing on your own. This sign right here, the Flint Cleaners. Now this looks like something that probably would have been done in post or with some sort of like After Effects or even some graphic design, because the way that the sign kind of transformed with the rain on the lens, it just makes it feel incredibly cinematic, a little filmic. Obviously, we're shooting on film. It should feel like film. But I really just like the way that this image turned out. The color shifts were intense. The sign was bright red. When I went there, I think maybe last summer, the lady told me that you should definitely come back at night and shoot it at night because the sign turns red and it's really beautiful. And she was exactly right. But what I didn't plan for was the color shifts turning this red to pink. And I kind of like that. I actually really, really like it. But one area where it didn't really work was when I tried to photograph the inside of the laundromat from, of course, the exterior. Everything, again, turned very, very pink. And quite frankly, I didn't like this image that much. I wish I overexposed it a little bit because there's absolutely no information in those shadows. And grain, negative space comes together to create texture. But in this scenario, there's just a whole lot of nothing. I had to crop this down because there was just so much just negative space in this image, except for just like this little part. So it is what it is. Sometimes you have to kind of work around it, but that's the beauty of such a large format style. Not large format, but like a larger format style, 6:9. You can crop it in and you're not going to lose a whole lot of detail. So with all that being said, I hope you guys enjoyed the video. If you're not already subscribed to my Patreon, go ahead and subscribe to that. I also have a website now, my new website. Go check it out. The link is in the description below. I hope you guys are all out there having fun, experimenting with film, because at the end of the day, it really is all about what makes you feel creative and having fun with photography. And this might be one way that you might have some fun with photography. I'll see you guys on the next one. Bye.